Hey guys, it's Harry from Inside Boxing Brain and I'm back for another video. Today I'm going to be talking about the keys to victory for both men in the Anthony Joshua versus Jermaine Franklin fight set for this Saturday night at the O2 live on DAZN. Now at the end of this video I'm going to be sharing my final prediction, so don't forget to stay tuned for that. But in today's video, I'm going to talk about a few different key areas that each man can really exploit against the other to get the desired outcome that they want for this fight. Now, before I jump into the video, if you're new to my channel, don't forget to subscribe, like this video as well, and drop me a comment because I'm interested in everybody's thoughts around this fight. I want to separate the convo into two distinct areas. The first, I'm going to talk about Anthony Joshua and what he needs to do. And secondly, I'm going to talk about Jermaine Franklin and his keys to victory in this fight. Now, just to talk about the key advantages that Anthony Joshua has over most fighters, not only Jermaine Franklin, but it's clear that he's a much bigger and physically stronger man. And for Anthony Joshua, one thing that he really hasn't done very well over his last few fights, which he should take advantage of in this fight, is using his body size and his weight to really wear down his opponent. He struggled to do that against Alexander Usyk because Alexander kept showing him different angles, was never letting him set, and that resulted in Anthony Joshua trying to box the boxer, trying to outbox a fighter who has never been outboxed before in his life. But in this fight, I really think if Anthony Joshua tries to back his man up and use his body weight to lean and push and wear down Jermaine Franklin, he will be able to slow him down to a point where he can start landing those combination punches that Anthony Joshua is famous for. So the first key to victory for Anthony Joshua is to use his physical dominance and prowess to dominate his opponent and push him back and wear him down so that he can start landing those combination punches that he's famous for. Now, Anthony Joshua over his last few fights has demonstrated to us that he has a great boxing brain. He is a good boxer behind the jab, and what he tends to do is use his range to stay out of danger until he sees an opening, and then he'll pounce and jump in with combination punches. So what Anthony Joshua needs to try to do again in this fight is use that jab, a sharp, hard jab, to really pop Jermaine Franklin's head back over and over again. And the more success he has with the jab, the more likely he will be to start landing those heavy punches that come off the jab. Everything in boxing comes off your jab. So if you're pinging the jab out and it's successfully landing every time, you're able to land more punches, the straight right hand, the left hook off the back of that right hand. And this is where he really needs to get into his groove and rhythm within the fight so that he can start landing these combination punches off the back of the jab. But everything starts with the first punch in boxing and the most important punch in boxing, which is the jab. And as we know, Anthony Joshua fights out of an orthodox stance. So for him, it's going to be very important not to lean over his lead leg, because the more he tries to lean into landing those jabs, instead of just having short, sharp, fast jabs, he's going to struggle because he will end up getting counterpunched. So, key to victory number 2 is to work behind the jab. Now, one thing that I have always admired about Anthony Joshua, and I still admire about Anthony Joshua, is his willingness to throw down and actually have a fight. Everybody seems to say that he cops out easy and he hasn't got a championship heart, but Anthony Joshua has been in back-to-back competitive fights over the last 7 or 8 years of his career. And over that time period, one thing that I've noticed about Anthony Joshua is that he does like to overcommit and get into a fight, a dogfight. So what he needs to do in this fight, and his third key to victory, is to make sure that he is a smart, intelligent fighter and uses his boxing IQ, his inside boxing brain, to make sure that he isn't engaging in flurries of punches when there's punches coming back or when he doesn't need to engage. He has to be smart and use his ring generalship to know when to attack, when to defend, when to move away, when to keep his distance. And if he can do those three things in combination with one another to find the right range, he's going to be able to just pot shot Jermaine Franklin with heavy shots. And I was watching Anthony Joshua versus Dillian Whyte, and it was a very similar fight in the sense that Anthony Joshua found his range after a few rounds and was able to land telling blows round after round after round. And every time Anthony Joshua fired, his punches were finding a home and they were hitting the target. So as long as he is able to judge his distance, he's going to be able to land combination punches on Jermaine Franklin. And in this case, I think Jermaine Franklin may be susceptible to the left hook, which is a punch that he ate time and time again against Dillian Whyte. Now, those three keys to victory aren't going to guarantee AJ the win. What's going to guarantee AJ the win is his will to win. As long as AJ comes into this fight knowing that he cannot fail or he cannot cop out or fold or buckle, he's going to make sure that he is an intelligent, smart fighter who fights behind the jab, gets his distance and range correct, and uses his size and body weight to dominate and wear down his opponent. And these keys to victory, combined with one another, should be able to get AJ a win in emphatic style if he's able to stick to them and execute them correctly. Now, moving over to Jermaine Franklin, I just want to say from the offset that I haven't followed Jermaine Franklin's career up until he fought Dillian Whyte. So a lot of this I'm basing off his last fight. And in my personal opinion, I felt that he actually won that fight. And I'm interested to know what you all think as well. As boxing supporters, as followers of the sport, do you think Jermaine Franklin was robbed? I was watching this fight last night, and Jermaine Franklin landed more punches. His punch stats were much greater than Dillian Whyte. And yes, I know you can't judge a fight just on who lands the more punches because it is a 12-round fight and we take it round by round. There might be one round where one fighter lands a flurry of punches and yeah, he wins the round. But over the course of 12 rounds, he may have lost the rounds. So you can't just base it on the BoxRec stats. And in that, I really felt that Jermaine Franklin had some key strengths. And I'm going to talk about his keys to victory now, because one thing that I think he needs to do more of is those combination punches. I realised that Jermaine Franklin very rarely lets off one punch at a time. He's not a pot punch, he doesn't let off the pot shots where it's just one big shot at a time. Boom, boom, boom. Everything that he throws seems to come off the jab, the hook, and then he lets his punches go. So, to me, it's a case of as long as Jermaine Franklin continues to throw punches in bunches and flurries of 3s, 4s at a time, he's going to be able to overwhelm Anthony Joshua and catch him slacking, going back in straight lines with his arms up. And just how Andy Ruiz was able to catch him with a hook over the top of his gloves at the top of his head, which really hurt him, I think Jermaine Franklin will be able to employ a similar style to potentially get a similar result. So key to victory number 1 is combination punching for Jermaine Franklin, something that I watched him do very well against Dillian Whyte, and something that I think if he implements in this fight, he'll be able to catch Anthony Joshua slacking, going back in straight lines, backing up, and really do some damage if he's able to land those punches. Because I think that Anthony Joshua's punch resistance has dwindled. We know that he's never had an iron jaw, and he's been dropped in a lot of fights, notably against Vladimir Klitschko, then subsequently against Andy Ruiz. And his ability to absorb that damage, given the fact that he's such a big, strong man and he's got massive legs, isn't where you'd expect it to be. But I think a lot of that comes down to the fact that when he retreats and goes into his shell, he tends to leave his chin up in the air and he goes back in straight lines. The second key to victory for Jermaine Franklin, and this is a very important key to victory, is the jab. And not only the jab to the head, but the jab to the body. It's something which really slowed down Dillian Whyte in their fight. And Dillian Whyte didn't really know how to get past it, because every time he'd come close, Jermaine Franklin was firing that jab straight into the chest, the mid-chest region. And over the course of a 12-round fight, that really starts to slow you down, because what you'll end up doing is dropping that right hand to try and parry the punch as it's coming through, to, you know, ride a big right hand over the top of it, and before you know it, you're exposed. And if you're exposed, you're susceptible to the big shots. So Jermaine Franklin needs to use his jab to the body, his jab to the midriff, and his jab to the head to keep Anthony Joshua guessing in terms of where the punches are coming and where he needs to defend. Because the more he has Anthony Joshua guessing and thinking and observing and watching, the less likely Anthony Joshua is going to be in setting into his rhythm and really letting his shots go. So you've got to keep him guessing. And Jermaine Franklin, I think, is a smart fighter. We saw that in the fight against Dillian Whyte, he had big cojones, he had a fighting heart, but I realised he also has a great boxing brain, and he was able to use that boxing brain to show Dillian Whyte different angles. He loves the roll. He rolls with every shot. When you throw a punch, he's not just static with his arms up or his arms down, protecting his body or his head. What he does is he rolls with the punches. So he'll move with your momentum and then come back with another shot. And this is something which Dillian Whyte struggled with over the first 2/3 of the fight. And over the last few rounds, yes, he was able to land some telling blows, but Jermaine Franklin really showed us as the British boxing public that he comes to fight and he's not just a dumb fighter, he's got the brains to be able to manoeuvre himself in the right way in that squared circle to get a desirable result. Key number 3. Now this to me is the most important key to victory, and something that if Jermaine Franklin is able to do, he'll be able to nullify a lot of what Anthony Joshua is bringing to the table, and that is to fight him on his chest. Anthony Joshua has always struggled with shorter fighters with quick hand speed and combination punches, and if Jermaine Franklin is able to get on the inside of that jab and let these combination punches go in a similar way to Andy Ruiz Jr., he's going to find that it's much easier to beat the bigger man and land telling blows, because he's going to be telegraphing his chin. Anthony Joshua does not like inside fighting. If he's fighting a bigger man, it's okay, it's easier for him because he can use his size to get on the inside. But when you're the bigger man fighting a shorter man, you're basically having to fight down. And that's going to be very difficult for Anthony Joshua if Jermaine Franklin is able to stick it on his chest and really fight him in the phone booth and let these short, sharp punches go. Anthony Joshua is going to find it difficult to be able to let his punches go and connect in the right way to hurt Jermaine Franklin if Jermaine fights him toe-to-toe. And by toe-to-toe, I mean in a phone box, in the phone booth, head on his chest, really biting down on his gum shield, letting short, sharp combination punches go, and then pivoting off and letting more combination punches go. Anthony Joshua has always struggled with the shorter men. And I don't think that this new camp in Texas is going to be able to change that and rewrite his boxing fundamentals. So those are the 3 keys to victory for each man. Now, I do think this is going to be a competitive fight and could swing either way depending on who is able to implement their keys to victory more effectively. But if I was to do an official fight prediction, which I am going to do shortly, I'm going to take into account all of the things that I've mentioned today. Spencer Fearon said something very interesting yesterday, and his prediction was that if this fight goes past 6 rounds, Anthony Joshua should retire. Now, we all know that AJ has been floating the idea of retirement if he is unable to hurt his man, and if he loses this fight, he said he's not going to fight the boxing public and just keep, battling on in the game, he's going to retire and sail off into the sunset. So I think that comes with a lot of added pressure on the man from England, on the British ex-champion, because he knows that everybody's going to be watching him and micromanaging, or being hypersensitive to everything that he does in that ring. So my official prediction is as follows. I think this fight is not going past the 8th round. And the reason why is because if Anthony Joshua is unable to knock Jermaine Franklin out within the first 6, he's going to empty the gas tank from 6 to 8. And in the latter half of the fight, from round 6, 7, 8 onwards, I think Jermaine Franklin is going to start having a lot more success with his combination punches and fighting on the inside. My formal prediction for this fight, and my heart is telling me one thing, my head is telling me another, but I'm going to go with my head. I honestly think that Jermaine Franklin is going to be able to hurt Anthony Joshua, and he's going to be able to cause Anthony Joshua a lot of problems. As a rebuilding fight, this was probably the wrong opponent to take. He should have gone into that fight with a Dillian Whyte, somebody who he knows well and understands how to fight. Jermaine Franklin is not a one-trick pony, and he's coming with a lot to prove. And I think on this occasion, he's going to be able to pull out the victory in round 6, 7 or 8 via knockout, in a very similar way to the way Andy Ruiz was able to beat him in the first fight. Now, I hope I'm wrong. I really hope I'm wrong, but my head is telling me that this is the way the fight's going to go. Anthony Joshua is a great fighter when he fights bigger men, but when he fights shorter men, he struggles. And 6'2" Jermaine Franklin, with sharp combination punches, speed, reflexes, and looks very chiseled. The weigh-in's not until tomorrow, but from everything we've seen, he looks like he's in much better shape. So I do think that he's going to be able to pull off the victory, unless Anthony Joshua is able to hit him hard and hit him clean. In the first few rounds of the fight, when Anthony Joshua is fresh and his mind is still on the game plan, because everybody reverts back to type when the fight isn't going in your way or in your favour. So I do think that he's going to struggle to be able to get him out of there if it goes past the 6th round. And in the latter half of the fight, we know, having watched Jermaine in there with Dillian, that he bites down on his gum shield, he's got massive cojones, and he likes to trade. So that's my official breakdown for the fight, guys. Do drop me your comments in the comment section below. I'm really interested to know what you think. I know a lot of the British fans are backing their British boy, and my heart is backing the British man as well. But this is an impartial channel, and I have to tell the truth, and I have to share my thoughts and opinions from a perspective of not being biased. And on this occasion, I am supporting the American to defeat Anthony Joshua. So I'm interested to speak to you all in the comment section. Do drop me a comment, subscribe and like this video, and share it amongst your friends as well. I'll be back for another video very soon. If you're interested in some boxing equipment, don't forget to hit my description and check out my affiliate links. It's a great way of supporting me and the channel as we grow in this journey. So I'll be back for another video very soon. I'm looking forward to tuning into the weigh-in tomorrow. But as I say, I'll speak to you all on the flip side. Peace.